I'm going to give away a free t-shirt, ask and answer a question, bring you comics news, and reveal the books I bought this week. How y'all doing? I'm Victor, and you are watching the Comic Hero Show. Now kick that intro! Edition of the Comic Hero Show. I'm your host Victor Nunley, and I am the Comic Hero. This month is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month, and I'll touch base on that a little later on, but for right now, it's time to give away a free t-shirt. Alright, on last week's episode, I asked, before co-founding Milestone Media, which legendary recording artist did Dwayne McDuffie and Dennis Cowan write and draw a one-shot comic book for in 1991? Well, the correct answer is Prince. And 10 people have answered correctly, and because they've answered correctly, your name's been entered in the drawing for a free tee. And that drawing takes place right now. So the winner of the free tee for this week's episode of the show is... Hey everyone. Now this month is Spinal Muscular Atrophy Awareness Month. Now spinal muscular atrophy, or SMA in short, is a genetic disorder that starts in the central nervous system and affects all the muscles in the body. Due to the degenerative nature of this disease, people with SMA will experience a decline in muscle strength over time, although the rate and severity can vary among individuals. Now SMA is mostly caused by a deficiency of a motor neuron protein called SMN, which stands for survival of motor neuron. This protein is necessary for normal motor neuron function. Now, 1 in 10,000 children are living with this disorder, and it's one of the leading genetic causes of infant deaths. Now, the signs and symptoms of SMA include floppy or weak arms and legs, movement problems such as difficulty sitting up, crawling, or walking, twitching or shaking muscles, also known as tremors, bone and joint problems such as an unusually curved spine or scoliosis, swallowing problems, and breathing difficulties. Now there are 5 subdivisions of SMA. The first is SMA type 0, which is prenatal SMA. Then SMA type 1, which is infantile SMA or Wernicke-Hoffmann disease. SMA type 2, which is intermediate SMA or Dubowitz disease. SMA type 3, which is juvenile SMA or Kugelberg-Wallander disease, and SMA type 4, which is late onset SMA. Now, the first 2 that I just named, which are SMA type 0 and SMA type 1, are the types of SMA that could kill babies before they're even born. Now, I personally know some young people that have SMA type 2, and it doesn't have them. They are some of the most amazing, intelligent, talented people I know. Now keep in mind I said people, I didn't say children, I said people, and I meant it. And I know that they and their families are watching this, and I just want to let y'all know I love y'all, and I'm going to continue to fight for y'all. Now this is a Spinal Muscular Atrophy Awareness Comic Hero tee. Inside the speech bubble you have the Cure SMA logo. Oh, by the way, I just want to go ahead and say this, but currently there is no cure for SMA, but it can be treated. And here on the left sleeve you have an awareness ribbon and a heart that says Spinal Muscular Atrophy Awareness, and also the ribbon. I mean not the ribbon, I meant the rose. And then here on the right sleeve you have the Cure SMA logo. Now if you would like one of your own, you can find them on the website IamTheComicHero.com for $17, and I will donate half of each purchase to the Cure SMA Foundation. I really wanted to go, as I'm doing this is August 31st, and I really didn't want this month to pass by without raising awareness of this cause. I've been raising awareness of this cause since 2016, and I'm going to continue to raise awareness of this cause every August. Bank on it. Now, recently I went and bought some comics, and I'm going to reveal what they are. So here we go. First up is the Amazing Spider-Man number 32. Batman the Brave and the Bold number 4. Battle Chasers number 12. Black Panther number 3. Captain America finale. Deadpool number 10. Fantastic Four Annual 2023. The Invincible Iron Man number 9. Night Terrors number 4. Action Comics number Night Terrors Action Comics number 2. Night Terrors Detective Comics number 2. Titans number 2. Star Trek number 11. Unstoppable Doom Patrol number 5. Venom number 24. And finally, X-Force number 43. Alright, that's 16, which brings the total number of comics that I bought since December of 1997 to 12,290. Maddie Shuff from Evangeline, Louisiana. So congratulations, Maddie. You win yourself a free comic hero tee. Alright, here's the question for next week's episode, or the next episode rather, and this is a Wolverine question. True or false? Due to his healing factor, Wolverine cannot get drunk. Everyone who answers correctly will be entered in a drawing for a free tee on that episode of the show. So, I gotta ask, any questions?
Questions I walk around in, questions I didn't reply in, questions I will survive in, questions.
I only have one question, and it's from Mike Hart from Monroe, Louisiana. He asked, who's your favorite comic book writer and artist? Oh, Mike, you're trying to get me in trouble with folks. That is the one of the hardest questions anyone has ever asked in the history of this segment. If I had to pick one, and I'm going writer, I'd probably have to say maybe Chris Claremont. I mean, I love what he did on X-Men, but he really caught my attention with what he did with Fantastic Four back when I was in high school. I mean, such a great writer, and I mean, he's done X-Men, he's done Fantastic Four, you know, he's done other books. My gosh, I mean, there are other writers. I mean, there's Jeff Johns, Ron Mars, Dan Jurgens, folks, and folks like that. And I can't really say Stan Lee because that was before my time, and I really don't have anything that he's ever written. But I can only say, and I know that, and Mike, I know you're asking me a question in terms of comics that are in my collection. But I'd probably have to say Chris Claremont. I mean, and then also he co-created Gambit. So what's not to like? All right, as far as artist goes, I probably have to go no further than the artist that worked alongside him on X-Men, and I'm talking about Jim Lee. I mean, there's really nothing that he can't do. Lee is a once in a generation talent in terms of comic book artists. I mean, there's some other great artists. I mean, there's Dan Jurgens, there's Jason Fabok, Salvador LaRocca, the late great Carlos Pacheco. But Jim, not only is he a great artist, he's also a great storyteller. And he also created his own universe called Wildstorm, which he sold to DC 25 years ago and has been with DC Comics ever since. And now he is, he's the vice president of operations at DC. And so I probably have to say Jim Lee, hands down. No disrespect to any writer or artist whose work I've collected and whose work I love, but those two, you put those two together, you got something. You had something very awesome. All right, I really love these questions. Y'all keep them coming. And I have two more questions for episodes 458 and 460, which I'll get to those on those episodes respectively. Now, the questions can either pertain to the show, or they can pertain to me in terms of being a collector. But please, no personal or tasteless questions. I will neither ask nor answer them on this show. All right, now it's time for Conflict Speaking. So without further ado, let's talk comics! All right, there's only one thing we're going to talk about in this segment of Conflict Speaking, and that's the news, or my review rather, of Night Terrors. Now, Night Terrors is this miniseries where this new villain by the name of Insomnia goes throughout the world and gives people nightmares. And he's doing this in an effort to find this artifact called the Nightmare Stone. And the heroes aren't immune to this either. I mean, Superman ends up with nightmares, Wonder Woman, all the members of the Titans, everyone. And a lot of them have miniseries within the miniseries. Now, Night Terror's last 4 issues, I've read 3 of those issues. And I've read a majority of the miniseries within the miniseries, or completed them. And it's a lot of interesting stuff that's going on. Superman has one and he's practically having a nightmare of being alone. Wonder Woman has a nightmare of herself. The Flash has a nightmare of losing Wally. The Green Lantern has a nightmare of Parallax. But here's the awesome thing about the Green Lantern miniseries. He goes up against Parallax, but then Hal says, no, you don't scare me. And he was talking about Kilowog, one of the members of the Green Lantern Corps, told him that fear stands for false evidence appearing real. and he beats the snot out of Parallax, so much so to the point where Parallax doesn't even want to fight him anymore. And then he ends up running away. And then there was a bonus story in there that talked about, you know, Sinestro. Now Sinestro is, you know, has a nightmare where he's going up against this multi-headed version of himself, talking about, you know, how he betrayed the Green Lantern Corps, and then another version of himself that resembles Parasite, saying that he's become too soft and everything, and he ends up beating the snot out of them. And he says, okay, y'all about to find, the whole world's about to find out the whole universe about to find out what I'm capable of now. But a lot of great stuff, and in the miniseries, Deadman, whose real name is Boston Brand, who's a former circus performer who ends up being shot while performing a circus act and dies. Okay, so here's the thing about him. He cannot go to heaven, nor to hell. He's stuck as a ghost within Earth's plane, and his power is basically inhabiting the bodies of living people. And the one person whose body is off limits to him, or they said is off limits to him, is Batman. But the only way he figures the only way to defeat Insomnia is to take over Batman's body, in which he does. And then he ends up somehow finding a zombie version of the Sandman, whose real name is Wesley Dodds. Now, this is not to be mistaken for the Sandman that was created by Neil Gaiman. That's another Sandman. This Sandman made his first appearance during the golden age of comics, back during the 1930s or the 1940s. And the Sandman, in the second issue of Night Terrors, it's revealed how Insomnia, his origin is revealed. And what happens is that Insomnia starts out as a young man who was about to be sacrificed by this underground cult. And then Sandman comes in and he stops the cult from killing him. But little does Sandman know, the young man actually agreed to have himself sacrificed, and he ends up stabbing himself, and that's how he becomes Insomnia. And he's out, and he was out for a long, and he was on a mission for a long time to find the Nightmare Stone, which I just said was in the possession of Dr. Nightmare. But then we find out that Dr. Nightmare actually hid it in a dead corpse of Deadman. And that was revealed at the very end of Night Terrors #3. And Deadman and Robin, and I'm talking about the Damian Wayne Robin, Batman's son, end up finding the Nightmare Stone, and he says this is the way to find it, to defeat Insomnia. So that was the last one I read, and I completed some of the miniseries within the miniseries. I'm telling y'all, this is one crazy ride. I mean, and then they have some of the most perfect artists. I mean, artists that, you know, specialize in coming up with all the scary stuff. I mean, you had Howard Porter, you had Giuseppe Camuncoli, David Baldion. I mean, several other artists, and it is one crazy ride. I think this is, now I was kind of on pins, you know, whenever DC, ever since Future State has done a miniseries like this, I'm always been on pins and needles. But this so far has not disappointed. And really looking forward to finishing the other miniseries within the miniseries, and Night Terrors #4, and then of course Night Terrors Night's End. I mean, I'm so ready. I may just go ahead and read this as soon as I'm done doing the show. But if y'all were sleeping on Night Terrors, you may want to wake up, and you may want to go to a comic book store and see if they have second printings, or just wait until the trade paperback comes in. But I guarantee you will love it. All right, that's it for Comically Speaking. Let's get to the comics I bought this week. Comic books I bought this week. All right, here we go. First up is Action Comics presents the Doomsday Special. Batman, Catwoman, the Gotham War Battle Lines. The Incredible Hulk #3. Really excited about this one. I was just talking about this in a comic book speaking segment. Night Terror's Night's End. Also excited about this one. Ms. Marvel, the New Mutant #1. Spider-Man India #3. Superboy, the Man of Tomorrow #5. Ultimate Invasion #3. And finally, Wolverine #36. All right, that's 9, which brings the total number of comics I've bought since December of 1997 to 12,299. All right, well, I hope y'all enjoyed this episode. And here's a question again for a free tea for episode 457. True or false? Due to his healing factor, Wolverine cannot get drunk. Everyone who answers correctly will be entered in a drawing for a free tea on next week's episode of the show. And congratulations to Maddie Shuff from Evangeline, Louisiana, won a free tea on this episode. All right, now this month, once again, is Childhood Cancer Awareness Month. And in 2012, President Barack Obama proclaimed September as National Childhood Cancer Awareness Month to bring awareness to pediatric cancer, which remains the leading cause of death by disease for children under the age of 14. It's a time to recognize the children and families affected by childhood cancers and to emphasize the importance of supporting research on these devastating conditions. Now, there are over 100 subtypes of childhood cancer. 43 children in the U.S. are diagnosed with cancer every day, and studies show that 1 in 5 children won't survive. In 1975, the survival rate of children battling cancer in America was 61%. Today, the survival rate is just over 84%. And you know what? I would love to see that at 100% one day. Because no child should ever have to die, in the dawn of either the dawn of life or early on in life. And no parent should ever have to bury their child. Now, I know that's a thing that happens, but it shouldn't have to. And I personally know some folks that when they were younger, they were diagnosed with different forms of childhood cancers, and they survived. And also know some that didn't survive. And I personally know the parents of children who were diagnosed with cancer and then beat it. And then also know the parents of children who were diagnosed with cancer and lost their lives as a result. If I just name y'all and y'all are watching this, I love y'all and I'm going to keep fighting for y'all. Now, this is a Childhood Cancer Awareness Comic Hero tee. Inside the speech bubble, you have the universal symbol of boys and girls, boys in blue, girls in pink. Then here on the left sleeve, you have an awareness ribbon with a boy on one side and a girl on the other. Then here on the right sleeve, you have the words, "What about kids?" Because there's an old saying that goes, "Children should be seen and not heard." Nonsense. I think children should be seen and heard, because there are a lot of children that I know that have a lot more sense than some adults. But if you would like a shirt of your own, you can find them on my website, imthecomichero.com, for $17, and I will donate half of each purchase to St. Jude. All right, here's the road ahead of the show. On episode 457, I'm going to raise awareness of prostate cancer. And on episode 458, I'm going to raise awareness of PCOS. Now, PCOS stands for polycystic ovarian syndrome. And in episode 459, I'm going to raise awareness of a cause I've never raised awareness of before, and that's blood cancer. I personally know someone who was diagnosed with blood cancer a few years ago, and they beat it, and now they're living life better than ever before. You know, in episode 460, I'm going to raise awareness of the NICU. I personally know some folks who spent their first few days, weeks, or even months in the NICU. And then I also know the parents of some children who have also spent their first moments of life in the NICU. This episode is in loving memory of those that didn't make it, and in honor of those who did. On episode 461, the 10th anniversary episode of the Comic Hero Show, and I'm still trying to come up with ideas for a logo, and I may need y'all's help with it. So if you follow me on social media, stay tuned. All right, if you're watching this for the first time on YouTube, welcome. As soon as you're done, hit subscribe. And if you're watching this for the first time on a Comic Book Lovers Facebook page, welcome. And as soon as you're done, go on YouTube and hit subscribe. All right, I'm Victor Nunley on a Comic Hero. I'll see you next week for episode 457. So until then, be safe, be blessed, be a hero.